Cold kills slower than bullets. That's what makes it worse. A bullet, you barely feel it sometimes. Just sudden impact, then maybe pain, then either you live or you don't. Quick, almost merciful compared to what cold does. Cold takes its time. Freezes your fingers first, then your toes. Creeps up your limbs while you watch it happen, while you feel yourself dying one piece at a time. And there's nothing you can do except keep moving and hope you don't stop. We lost more men to cold than to Chinese bullets during the retreat. That's what nobody talks about when they mention Korea. They talk about the fighting, the Chinese human wave attacks, the outnumbered Marines holding the line. They don't talk about watching your buddy's feet turn black with frostbite, watching him try to walk on stumps of dead tissue, watching him finally just sit down in the snow because he couldn't take another step. They don't talk about leaving him there because you had to, because stopping meant you'd freeze too, because survival meant abandoning everyone who couldn't keep up. My name is Robert Martinez. I'm a Marine. Was a Marine, I guess, though they say once a Marine, always a Marine. I was 21 years old when we retreated from the Chosan Reservoir in November and December 1950. 21 years old, and I thought I understood what war was. Thought I knew about combat and death and suffering because my old man had fought in the Pacific during World War II. I knew nothing. World War II was a different kind of hell. Korea was its own special nightmare. I joined the Marines in 1948. Peacetime military, thought I'd do my 4 years and get out, use the GI Bill to go to college. The Corps was just a stepping stone, a way to escape my hometown in New Mexico, see the world, become something more than my father's son. Boot camp at Paris Island was brutal, but straightforward. They broke you down and built you back up as a Marine. Taught you to shoot, to follow orders, to think of your unit as family. I was good at it. Made PFC quick, got assigned to 1st Marine Division as a rifleman, stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, good duty, training exercises, some border patrol work, nothing serious. Then June 1950 happened. North Korea invaded South Korea. Within weeks, we were being shipped out. The 1st Marine Division was going to Korea to stop the communist invasion, to push them back, to win a quick war and come home. That's what they told us anyway. Quick war, home by Christmas, same lies they always tell. We landed at Incheon in September 1950. MacArthur's brilliant amphibious assault caught the North Koreans by surprise, turned the whole war around. We pushed north, liberated Seoul, kept advancing. The North Korean army was collapsing. Everyone said the war was basically over, just mopping up. Chinese wouldn't intervene. They'd threatened to, but that was just posturing. We'd be home by Christmas. My squad was tight. 7 guys who'd been together since Pendleton. There was Sergeant Mike O'Connor from Boston, career Marine, tough as nails. Corporal James Chen from San Francisco, best shot in the company. PFCS Tommy Sullivan from Chicago, Johnny Martinez, no relation. From Texas, David Kim from Los Angeles, and Bobby Jackson from Georgia, and me. We'd trained together, shipped out together, fought together, took Seoul together, pushed north together, brothers in everything but blood. The kind of bond you only get in combat when your life depends on the guys next to you. By November, we were way up north, near the Chosan Reservoir. Coldest place I'd ever been. 15, 20 below zero. Colder at night. So cold that weapons would freeze and jam. So cold that water froze in your canteen within minutes. So cold that pissing could give you frostbite if you weren't careful. But we were winning. The Chinese hadn't intervened despite their threats. North Korea was finished. Just a matter of time before we reached the Yalu River and ended the war. Home by Christmas. Everyone kept saying it. Home by Christmas. On November 27th, 1950, the Chinese attacked. Not a division, not an army. 300,000 Chinese soldiers came pouring across the border, hitting us from every direction. Human wave attacks, endless streams of soldiers with bugles blowing and whistles shrieking, overwhelming our positions through sheer numbers. We weren't prepared, weren't equipped for winter warfare at that scale, weren't expecting an enemy that would sacrifice 10,000 men to take one hill, weren't ready for any of it. And suddenly, we weren't advancing anymore. We were surrounded, cut off, fighting for survival in the worst conditions imaginable, against an enemy that seemed infinite. That's when they told us we weren't advancing to the Yalu. We were retreating, fighting our way 78 miles through Chinese-held territory to the coast, in sub-zero temperatures, with limited supplies and no air support half the time due to weather. Retreat, hell, someone said. We're just attacking in a different direction. Bullshit. It was a retreat. A desperate fighting withdrawal from a disaster that never should have happened. And it cost us everything. The Chinese hit our position at Udumni just after dark on November 27th. We'd been dug in on a ridgeline trying to stay warm, eating frozen sea rations that we had to thaw in our armpits. The temperature was maybe 15 below. Clear sky, full moon. Beautiful night if you ignored the fact that we were in a frozen hell. Then the bugles started. This eerie sound echoing through the mountains. Whistles, shouting in Chinese. And we knew they were coming. "Here we go, boys," Sergeant O'Connor shouted. "Pick your targets. Conserve ammo. Don't let the bastards break through." They came in waves, hundreds of them, thousands, more than we could count in the darkness. We fired into the mass of bodies, cut them down, and more kept coming. The machine guns were chattering non-stop, rifles firing so fast the barrels glowed red. Artillery called in danger, close, shells landing 50 yards from our position, but still they came. I fired until my rifle jammed from the cold, grabbed another from a dead Marine, kept firing, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening, just point and shoot, point and shoot. Bodies piling up in front of our position and more Chinese soldiers climbing over the dead to reach us. They broke through on our left flank, hand-to-hand fighting in the darkness, bayonets and rifle butts and fighting knives, men screaming in English and Chinese, the smell of blood and cordite and fear. Tommy Sullivan went down with a bayonet in his gut. I shot the Chinese soldier who'd stabbed him, then another, then another. The attack lasted 4 hours. By dawn, the Chinese pulled back. Our position held, but barely. The ground in front of us was covered with bodies, Chinese and Marine mixed together in the snow. The snow itself wasn't white anymore. It was red and pink, stained with blood and trampled into slush. Tommy Sullivan was still alive, gut wound, bleeding internally. The corpsman did what he could, but we all knew. Gut shots in sub-zero temperatures, 70 miles from the coast? He wasn't going to make it. "How bad?" Tommy asked, looking at me. "You'll be okay," I lied. "Cortman's got you patched up." He smiled weakly, knew I was lying, but appreciated it anyway. "Tell my mom. Tell her I wasn't scared, okay?" "You can tell her yourself. You're going to make it." He died an hour later, bled out while we prepared to move out. We couldn't bury him. The ground was frozen solid. Just covered him with a poncho and left him there. No time for anything else. The Chinese would be back, and we had to move. That was the first one. The first friend I lost during the retreat. There would be more. We started moving south that afternoon. The division was consolidating, fighting its way toward the coast. Every mile was contested. Chinese everywhere, hitting us from the hills, ambushing convoys, attacking at night, and the cold getting worse. Temperature dropping to 20, 30 below. My feet were numb by the second day. Couldn't feel my toes anymore. Knew that was bad, that frostbite was setting in, but there was nothing to do about it. We couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying, so we kept walking. Corporal Chen took a bullet through the shoulder on day 3. Went through and through, clean wound. But in that cold, it might as well have been fatal. We bandaged it, kept him moving. But you could see him getting weaker. Blood loss and cold. Deadly combination. "Leave me," he said on day 4. "I'm slowing you down." "Fuck that," Sergeant O'Connor said. "Marines don't leave Marines. You keep walking." So he kept walking. For another day. Then he sat down in the snow and couldn't get back up. Just physically couldn't. The wound and the cold had used him up. We tried to carry him, took turns. But we were all exhausted, all dealing with our own wounds and frostbite. After an hour, we had to face reality. Either we left him, or we all died trying to carry him. "Go," Chen said. His voice was weak. "Just make it home. Tell my family." Sergeant O'Connor nodded. Couldn't speak. "What do you say when you're abandoning a brother?" We left him there, gave him his rifle, some ammo, what little morphine we had, so he could hold off the Chinese if they found him, or end it himself if he chose to. I looked back once, saw him sitting in the snow, rifle across his lap, watching us go. He raised one hand, a wave or a salute, I couldn't tell. Then we went around a bend and he was gone. I think about that moment every day. Wonder if he's still sitting there, frozen in the snow. Wonder if the Chinese found him. Wonder if he used the morphine or the rifle. Wonder if leaving him was the right choice, or if we should have died trying to save him. No good answers. Just the weight of abandoning a friend because survival demanded it. The retreat turned into a nightmare that lasted 17 days. 17 days of fighting and walking and freezing. 17 days of watching men die from bullets, from cold, from exhaustion. 17 days that destroyed everyone who survived. The cold was relentless. Every morning we'd wake up to find someone had frozen to death in the night. Just didn't wake up. Went to sleep and the cold took them. We'd check for pulses, find nothing. Take their ammo and any warm gear they had and leave them. Had to. Couldn't carry dead bodies. Could barely carry ourselves. My hands stopped working around day 7. Frostbite had set in deep. Fingers were black, wouldn't bend. Hurt like hell when I tried to use them. Couldn't pull a trigger anymore. Sergeant O'Connor had to tape my rifle to my hand so I wouldn't drop it. "You're done shooting," he said. "Just carry it. Look dangerous. Maybe that'll help." Bobby Jackson lost his feet to frostbite on day 9. We'd stopped for a few hours trying to rest. When he took off his boots to check his feet, the skin came with them. Just peeled off, exposing black dead tissue underneath. He stared at his ruined feet and laughed, this crazy broken laugh. "Guess I'm not dancing at my wedding anymore," he said. We tried to wrap them, tried to keep him mobile. But walking on frostbitten feet is agony. Every step was torture. He kept going for a day, maybe 2. Then he couldn't anymore. Just physically couldn't take another step. "Go on," he said. "I'm done. Bobby dash dash." "I said go." He was crying now. "I can't walk. You can't carry me. And I'm not letting you die because of me. So fucking go." We left him. Another brother abandoned to the snow and the Chinese and the cold. Another man we couldn't save. David Kim took shrapnel from Chinese artillery on day 12. Piece of metal the size of a quarter embedded in his stomach. Not immediately fatal, but infected quickly in the cold and dirt. No antibiotics, no proper medical care. We watched him deteriorate over 2 days. Fever, delirium. The wound turning septic, spreading infection through his body. He died on day 14. Mercifully quick at the end, just slipped away while we were walking. Didn't even realize he was gone until he fell and didn't get up. We checked him. No pulse. Another casualty. Another friend gone. 4 left from our original 7. Me, Sergeant O'Connor, Johnny Martinez, and a handful of replacements who'd joined us along the way. Moving like zombies through a frozen wasteland. Barely human anymore. Just meat on legs, trying to reach the coast before the cold, or the Chinese finished us. The Chinese kept attacking, ambushes every day, full assaults at night. Human wave attacks that we barely repulsed. They were suffering too. Saw dead Chinese everywhere, frozen in the snow, killed by cold as much as by bullets. But they kept coming, kept attacking, didn't seem to care about casualties. We passed through a village on day 15. Chinese had been there first, found Marines who'd been captured. They were dead now, executed. Some had been tortured first, cut, burned, things I won't describe. The bodies were frozen solid, preserved in their final moments of agony. Johnny Martinez threw up. Tough kid from Texas who'd killed dozens of Chinese soldiers without flinching, vomited at the sight of what they'd done to captured Marines. "If we get captured," he said, "don't let them take me alive. Promise me. Put a bullet in my head before you let them take me." "We're not getting captured," Sergeant O'Connor said. "Promise me." "I promise," O'Connor said quietly. We kept moving. What else could we do? Stop and think about what we'd seen. Stop and process the horror. Stopping meant dying. So we walked. By day 16, we'd lost over half the company. Dead, wounded, missing, captured. The Marines who were left were walking corpses. Frostbite, exhaustion, malnutrition. We were eating snow for water because our canteens had frozen and shattered. Eating frozen sea rations that gave us diarrhea. Shitting ourselves because we couldn't stop to properly relieve ourselves. Reduced to animals. Less than animals. I'd lost 3 toes on my left foot. Could feel them dying. Feel the tissue going black. Knew I'd lose the whole foot eventually. Maybe the leg. If I survived. If I made it to the coast. Big ifs. Sergeant O'Connor was holding the squad together through sheer force of will. He was in worse shape than any of us. Older, more wounded, feet completely destroyed by frostbite. But he kept moving. Kept encouraging us. Kept telling us we'd make it. "Just 1 more mile," he'd say. "1 more mile, boys." Then another. Then another. "We're Marines. We don't quit." On day 16, we linked up with other elements of the division. Thousands of Marines all retreating together. Wounded men on trucks and jeeps. Dead bodies stacked like cordwood. The walking wounded, which was basically everyone, trudging through snow. The Chinese hit us with everything that night. Massive attack on the column. Artillery, mortars, infantry assaults from 3 sides. They were trying to destroy us completely, to annihilate the 1st Marine Division before we could reach the coast. We fought through the night, hour after hour of combat. I couldn't shoot anymore, hands too damaged. But I could still load magazines for guys who could shoot. Could still drag wounded men to cover. Could still do something, even if I was barely functional. Johnny Martinez took a bullet through the lung, went down coughing blood. The corpsman looked at him, shook his head. Sucking chest wound. Fatal, probably, especially in these conditions. "Rob," Johnny gasped, blood bubbling from his mouth. "Tell my mom. Tell her." "Save your strength," I said. Held his hand while he died. Took maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes of struggling to breathe, of pain, of knowing he wasn't going home. Then he stopped breathing, and another friend was gone. 3 of us left from the original 7. Me, Sergeant O'Connor, and our ghosts. We reached the coast on December 11th, 1950. 17 days after the Chinese attack. 78 miles of frozen hell. The 1st Marine Division had started with over 30,000 men. We arrived at the coast with maybe 20,000 combat effective. The rest were dead, wounded, captured, or missing. We'd fought our way through 10 Chinese divisions, killed thousands of them, held together under conditions that should have destroyed us, and we'd made it. Victory, they called it. A fighting withdrawal, a magnificent retreat, the chosen few, heroes, bullshit. It was a disaster, a catastrophic failure of intelligence and planning that got thousands of Marines killed or maimed. We didn't win. We survived, barely. They loaded us onto ships, medical personnel treating the worst cases, everyone else just standing there, trying to process what had happened, trying to understand how we'd gone from home by Christmas to fight for your life in sub-zero hell in 2 weeks. I looked at my hands, black fingers, dead tissue. Knew I'd lose them. Looked at my feet, could barely stand on them. Knew I'd lose toes, maybe more. Looked at Sergeant O'Connor, who'd held us together. He was crying silently. Tough as nails, career Marine, sobbing. "We made it, Sarge," I said. "Did we?" He looked at me with hollow eyes. "Tommy's still up there. Chen, Bobby, David, Johnny, hundreds of others. They didn't make it. We just left them. We had to. Doesn't make it easier." Number. It didn't make it easier. Survival didn't ease the guilt. Making it to the coast didn't erase the faces of the men we'd abandoned. Being alive didn't feel like victory. It felt like failure. They shipped us to Japan for medical treatment. The worst frostbite cases were evacuated immediately. That included me. My hands and feet were destroyed, black tissue, dead, starting to rot. They amputated 4 fingers on my right hand, 3 on my left. Took 5 toes from my left foot, 3 from the right. I watched them cut away pieces of me, parts that had died in Korea, that had frozen and couldn't be saved. The surgeon was efficient, professional, just removing dead tissue, no different than trimming a steak. But those were my fingers, my toes, parts of my body that had been fine 6 weeks ago, now gone, amputated, destroyed by cold because I'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time, fighting a war that nobody wanted. The physical pain was manageable. Morphine helped. The phantom sensations were worse. Still feeling fingers that weren't there. Still feeling toes that had been removed. My brain hadn't caught up to the reality that parts of me were missing. But the psychological pain was worst of all. Every night I dreamed about the retreat. About Tommy bleeding out. About Chen sitting in the snow. About Bobby crying as we left him. About David dying while walking. About Johnny coughing blood. About abandoning them. About choosing my survival over their lives. About being the one who made it when they didn't. Survivor's guilt, the doctors called it. Normal response to trauma. Would fade with time. Just needed rest and therapy and time to heal. They were wrong. It didn't fade. It got worse. I met Sergeant O'Connor in the hospital ward. He'd lost both feet, amputated at the ankles. He was in a wheelchair, staring at nothing. "Hey, Sarge," I said. He looked at me. Didn't recognize me at first. Then, "Martinez, you made it." "Yeah, you too." "Did I?" He looked at his stumps. "This isn't making it. This is just existing. My feet are gone. My career is over. Marines don't need cripples." "You're alive." "For what? To spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair? To watch the world move on while I'm stuck? To think about the men I left behind every day for the rest of my life?" He laughed bitterly. "Some prize." I didn't know what to say. He was right. Survival wasn't a prize. It was a burden, a weight we'd carry forever. O'Connor killed himself 2 weeks later, overdosed on painkillers. Left a note saying he couldn't handle the guilt, couldn't live as half a man, couldn't face the families of the men who didn't make it. Said he was sorry for being weak, sorry for giving up. But he wasn't weak, he was broken. We all were. Some of us just broke in more visible ways. His funeral was small, military honors, flag on the coffin, 3-volley salute, taps, all the ceremony. But nobody mentioned that he'd killed himself. Nobody talked about how the war had destroyed him just as surely as it had killed the men who died in Korea. Nobody acknowledged that sometimes surviving is just dying slowly. After the funeral, I sat in my hospital bed and looked at my ruined hands. Thought about O'Connor, about the easy way out, about ending it before the guilt and the memories and the nightmares consumed everything else. I had the pills, pain medication, enough to do the job, would be easy. Go to sleep and not wake up. Join Tommy and Chen and Bobby and David and Johnny and O'Connor. Stop being the survivor. Stop carrying the weight. I held the pills for an hour, counted them, thought about swallowing them. Couldn't do it. Not because I wanted to live, because killing myself felt like the final abandonment, like leaving one more battle, one more retreat. So I put the pills away, decided to carry the weight, to survive even though surviving was agony. Because that's what Marines do. We don't quit, even when quitting is the merciful option, even when living is harder than dying. They discharged me from the Marines in 1951. Medical discharge, disability pension. Thank you for your service. Sorry about your fingers and toes. Here's some money and a medal. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I went home to New Mexico. My parents were happy to see me, proud of their Marine son. Showed everyone my medals, told everyone I was a hero. Didn't understand why I wouldn't talk about Korea, why I flinched at loud noises, why I couldn't sleep, why I'd wake up screaming about the cold. I tried to adjust, tried to find work, but who wants to hire a cripple with missing fingers? Can't work manual labor. Can't do anything requiring fine motor control. Can't even shake hands properly. Just a broken veteran living on disability, drinking to forget, trying to function with pieces missing. Met a woman in 1953, Maria. She was patient, understanding, didn't push me to talk about the war. We got married in 1954. I thought maybe marriage would help. Give me purpose. Give me something to live for besides guilt and memories. It helped some. Having someone who cared, who didn't judge, who accepted me as I was. We had a daughter in 1955. Named her Teresa. She's beautiful, perfect, everything good in my life. But the nightmares didn't stop. The guilt didn't fade. Every winter, when the temperature drops, I'm back in Korea. Back on that retreat. Back watching my friends die. Back making the choice to abandon them so I could survive. I can't wear gloves anymore. Can't stand having my hands covered. Triggers panic attacks. Even in winter, even when it's freezing, my hands stay bare. Maria worries I'll get frostbite again. Doesn't understand that part of me wants to. Wants to feel that cold again. Wants the punishment I deserve for surviving when they didn't. I see other Korean War veterans sometimes. We recognize each other without speaking. There's a haunted look we all share. The 1,000-yard stare. The distance. The knowledge that we left pieces of ourselves in Korea that we came home incomplete. Some of them talk about the glory, the heroism, the magnificent fighting retreat, the pride of being a chosen few. I let them have that narrative. Let them find meaning in the suffering. But I can't. For me, it was just loss. Just watching friends die. Just choosing survival over loyalty. Just carrying guilt that never goes away. The Army calls it the forgotten war now. Korea gets overshadowed by World War II and will probably be overshadowed by whatever war comes next. Nobody wants to remember a war we didn't win. A war that ended in stalemate. A war where thousands died for a border that's basically where it started. but I can't forget. Can't forget Tommy Sullivan bleeding out. Can't forget James Chen sitting in the snow with his rifle. Can't forget Bobby Jackson with his destroyed feet. Can't forget David Kim dying of sepsis. Can't forget Johnny Martinez coughing blood. Can't forget that I left them, that I'm alive because they died, that every breath I take is bought with their sacrifice. I'm 45 years old now. The retreat was 24 years ago. But I'm still there, still walking through that frozen hell, still abandoning friends, still choosing survival, still carrying the weight of making it home when they didn't. My daughter asks me sometimes about the war, about Korea, about what it was like. She's innocent, curious, trying to understand her father. I don't know what to tell her, don't know how to explain that her father is a coward who abandoned his brothers, that her father survived by leaving better men to die, that her father is haunted by choices he had to make but can never justify. So I tell her nothing. Just say it was hard, and I'm glad it's over. Another lie, another evasion, adding to the pile of lies I've told about Korea. The truth is, cold kills slower than bullets. It takes its time, freezes you one piece at a time, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And some of us are still freezing, still dying slowly, still losing pieces of ourselves years after the war ended. I lost fingers and toes to frostbite, lost friends to bullets and cold and Chinese soldiers. But the worst thing I lost was the ability to live without guilt, the ability to sleep without nightmares, the ability to see winter without seeing corpses in the snow. That's what the retreat from Chosin took from me. Not just body parts, my humanity, my peace, my ability to believe I'm a good person who made impossible choices in an impossible situation. Some nights, I wish I'd sat down in the snow like Chen. Wish I'd stopped walking like Bobby. Wish I'd taken my chances with the Chinese rather than abandoning my friends. Death in Korea would have been cleaner than this life I'm living. But I didn't. I kept walking, kept surviving, kept choosing life over death, even though the life I'm living is haunted by death. Marines don't quit. That's what they taught us. That's what Sergeant O'Connor kept saying. Marines don't quit. But sometimes I wonder if quitting would have been braver, if sitting down in that snow would have taken more courage than keeping walking, if dying with my friends would have been more honorable than surviving without them. I'll never know. The choice is made. Can't go back. Can only carry the weight forward one day at a time, waiting for my own cold to finish what Korea started. Cold kills slower than bullets. 24 years and counting, and I'm still dying.